So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the New Jersey Peace Action annual fall gathering. While everyone is gathering around, let me introduce Joel Roy, who graciously agreed to provide music for today's event.
Yes, that's me, Joel Roy.
Please give a warm virtual round of applause for Joel Roy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's Roy with an I, you know, it's a French word. It means king, le roi. Je suis le roi, coming to you from Louisiana. I'm down in New Orleans, y'all. Can you imagine a world? A world with peace, a world with hope. A peace and love. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us in the world we live as one. Imagine I wonder if you can. Nothing to kill or die for. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you join us and the world we live as one. Now, this could be considered background music while you start talking over me if you want.
Thank you, Joel, but I think a little lower so people can hear.
Okay, how's that?
Okay. Thank you. That was a great rendition, Joel. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Judith Arnold, and I am president of the Board of New Jersey Peace Action. I want to thank you for joining us for this exciting event today, and I'm pleased and proud that Frida Berrigan has agreed to speak with us. I would also like to thank the members of our Special Events Committee who put this afternoon together. They put a lot of work into making this program possible. And they are Chairperson Anna Nelson, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday from all of us, Anna. And also members Peggy Manges, Lev and Victoria Pinsky, and help from Adam Hockenberry. I will now turn it back over to Lev Pinsky, who is our Master of Ceremonies for this afternoon. Enjoy.
Thank you, Judith. In our program today, we'll have a Director of Outreach and Treasurer reports, followed by a presentation of awards. After that, the main part of the event, Frida's talk, followed by a question and answer session. And last but not least, the picking of the raffle winners. Please locate the Q&A and chat buttons. I see a lot of people already found the chat button. There is also a Q&A button next to it. And if you click on that, you will be able to submit a question. And we will try to get to all of your questions, time permitting. Please keep your questions brief and to the point. And now let me introduce our Director of Outreach, Adam Hockenberry.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, Lev. Thank you, Judith, and thank you, Joel. That was wonderful. I just want to give you a little bit of background and say hello. I'm super happy to be here. I've almost been at New Jersey Peace Action for a whole year now. It's kind of hard to imagine how fast 2021 has flown by. So I'm super thankful to be here. I'm super thankful to be a part of this great team who cares as much as they do about peace and moving forward with peaceful U.S. foreign policy and embedding the nuclear bomb. Everybody here is so passionate, and I know everybody here who joins us as attendees just has an amazing amount of passion and care and a certain amount of personal responsibility for what we do as a country and where we're headed moving forward. So I want to thank you all for that and just take a moment to kind of reflect on that and think about why we are here and think about why we care about this as much as we do. I want to thank Frida once again for being here with us today. We're very excited to listen to you as somebody who's been so involved for so long as long as you can remember, I'm sure, and as long as we've all known of your parents and the wonderful work that they've done throughout the years. So thank you. So one of the things that I do with my role as Director of Outreach is talk to you all. So I want to make myself just, very available to anybody who might have questions, ideas about moving forward, any kind of ways in which they'd like to be involved as volunteers, even from whether that means helping out with a mailing or being a new board member, because we are looking to expand on our board. So whatever you would like to do and whatever your comfort level is to get involved, we encourage that. And we are also going to be sending an email to all of our attendees today. If you'd like to be involved in a post meeting, which may be happening right today, if you're available, we understand, but if not, we're going to try and schedule something with you lot via email after this. So we would love to be able to have some of our most dedicated supporters hop in on a meeting as opposed to a webinar, so we can hear from all of you, so we can chat. We've been doing our quarterly meetings this year, which we should have one more of in the next month or so, in order just to hear from everybody, to kind of get together as a group. And we all view ourselves as members and stewards, and whether we're board members, whether we're staff, or whether we're part of our membership. So we're very much so looking forward to listening and meeting with all of you together. So in the past year, we've been really busy, and we've had some changes with Jeff's departure, but the work has continued on, and we've been very excited about some of the new partnerships that we've been a part of, one of which is New Jersey for the Filipino Human Rights Act. And that is really an exciting young group of people from North Jersey, largely Filipino, who are working to change the political landscape in the Philippines and stop the US's assistance to the war crimes that happen in the Philippines based on their dictatorial regime of Rodrigo Duterte. And that's been really fulfilling and something that we've been really happy to be a part of, because of it's one of the many, many ways in which our military budget is going towards oppressive regime and oppressive, restriction of freedoms all across the world. So we're very happy to be a part of that. We're also happy to be a part of the Coalition for Palestinian Liberation. We're partnered with POP, Jewish Force for Peace, American Muslims for Peace, New Jersey, Palestinian American Community Center in Clifton. And we did a webinar series in the summer, which was a really big hit. We were super thankful to be able to pull that off and get together as a group for kind of like a kickoff event where every Tuesday we gathered and had wonderful series of webinars. And we believe that they had a really nice, not only did they provide a lot of education, but they were able to reach some new people and have some new people become familiar with New Jersey Peace Action. And one of the reasons I was so excited to join NJPA is to really kind of broaden our base and work with some new people, take on some interesting issues that are dynamic and engaging for especially a younger generation. In the next month or so, we're going to be working with the coalition for a Child's View of Gaza art installation event, which we're very excited for. We'll have more information coming about that soon. We're still working as a coalition to finalize a few things, but they're all paintings and drawings from children who grew up in Gaza around 10 or 15 years ago. They're not children anymore. The ones who were fortunate enough to be able to grow into adulthood are, now young adults. But it's a very moving presentation. And we hope to be able to see you all turn out, and we'll have more information about that coming in the next few days. So with that being said, I will kick it on over to Howard, our new treasurer. We're very happy to have Howard in this position. He's been a part of NJPA for quite some time now, and he's very much so capable of learning on the fly and picking up this new role. So we're all very happy, and I'm pleased to introduce Howard Libaugh.
Thank you very much, Adam. Recently, the United States withdrew from Afghanistan and ended the longest war in our country's history. With the rapid takeover of the country by the Taliban, it became clear that the war was a failure. Many lives were lost and an extraordinary amount of money was wasted, which could have been spent helping the people here in the United States. Many Afghanis may not like a religious extremist group like the Taliban, but they were seen as preferable to the violence brought by the American occupation. New Jersey Peace Action predicted the dangerous consequences of this war. I remember 20 years ago when, on the night the war began, a group of our members gathered for a protest vigil in Montclair. We used the slogan, "Justice, not war," which symbolized the feeling that those responsible for the violent attacks on September 11th needed to be brought to justice, and war could not solve our problems. I bring this up now not to point out how smart we were, but to remind everyone about the importance of our organization. For those of you who want to help create a more peaceful world and advocate for the end of war, New Jersey Peace Action is the leading voice here in Central and North Jersey. We work with our colleagues in our national organization from around the country, but we focus our efforts here locally where we live. Since the 1950s or the late 1950s, our efforts have been nonstop. It is New Jersey Peace Action that has been letting our voices be heard at weekly vigils in Montclair, at the offices of congressional representatives and senators, where we have scheduled virtual meetings to speak to them or their staff, and at important community events such as the Hoboken Street Fair and the annual Labor Day Parade in Haledon. We once again raised concern on the anniversary of the horrific attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even though the media totally ignored this issue. We will continue speaking about our concerns over the possibility of nuclear war. Our organization was founded by people concerned about the possibility of the use of these weapons of mass destruction, and we are the leading voice to prevent it. Also this year, we joined with other peace activists to prevent violence. We took part with local activists in rallies during the Middle East violence last spring. Adam Hockenberry already mentioned the group of organizations we worked with. And the rallies took place in Patterson and Clifton, and we spread the word about all New Jersey Peace Action is doing. While we have done a lot, and we certainly have worked hard, I feel we could do so much more if we had more money. We need to hire a new executive director to lead our office in Bloomfield. We need to reach out to more people. That is why I am once again coming to you today and asking for you to provide us with the funds to help keep our organization running and let our voices be heard by more people. Every contribution is very much appreciated. Whether you could donate $25, $50, $100, or whatever you feel comfortable with. For those who can make a donation of $500 or $1,000, your help will enable us to focus less on fundraising and more on getting the word out about creating a more peaceful world. Please go to www.njpeaceaction.org and hit the donate button. For those who prefer to mail a check, please send it to, and I'll give you our address, 673 Bloomfield Avenue, 2nd floor, Bloomfield, New Jersey, 07003. I believe that we'll put this in the chat, and I'll put in the chat if it's not done. So please, please consider giving generously today. As you are writing in donations or writing checks, which I hope you all will be doing, we will treat you with some wonderful music. I would like to now reintroduce Joe Roy, who will perform for us.
Thank you, thank you. Hey everybody, let's have some fun. You only live once, and when you did, you're done. So let the good times roll. Let the good times roll. Hey, don't care if you're young. Get together, let the good times roll. Don't sit around just talking trash. If you want some peace, you gotta spend some cash and let the good times roll. Let the good times roll. Don't care if you're young. Get together, let the good times roll. 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 Don't care you're young. Get together, let the good times roll. Once I built a railroad up to the sun, motor ribbons and lime. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Hey buddy, could you spare a dime? Once I built a tower up to the sun, made it race against time. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Hey buddy, could you spare a dime? once in khaki boots. Gee, we look swell, full of the Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went running through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Say, do you remember? They called me Al. It was Al all the time. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Hey, buddy, could you spare a dime?
Thank you again, Joel. I guess I'm destined to follow you this afternoon for everything. I am now going to present our first award. As a member and now president of the board of New Jersey Peace Action, I have gotten to know Don Leach over the past several years. He has served in several capacities as volunteer, board member, and treasurer. His work has been invaluable in all these roles. Don is moving away with his wife, Judy, and we will miss him so much. Don, we're presenting you with this certificate in recognition for all you've done for New Jersey Peace Action, and I'll read the certificate. New Jersey Peace Action Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Don Leach in appreciation for his many years of dedicated service to New Jersey Peace Action as a volunteer, member of the board of directors, and as treasurer. Don, you will be greatly missed. And we should be going to Don now.
Okay, I am very proud to have served for these past several years, first as a board member, then as treasurer. New Jersey Peace Action has a long and storied history of advocating for peace and justice, and especially for sanity in military actions. I firmly believe that grassroots activism can be a powerful catalyst for positive change. And I'm glad to have had the chance to have worked with so many like-minded people as I make my exit from New Jersey to the Blue Ridge Mountains. There, I have the boxes to prove it over here. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, New Jersey Peace Action is honored to welcome Frida Berrigan to our annual fall gathering, and we are also honored to present her with our Hope Shapiro Bread and Roses Award. I met Frida 2 decades back while working in an organization in the old War Resisters League building, which we miss so much, at 339 Lafayette Street in New York. And she's an inspiration to all of us. Frida saw my son, Trevor, who's now 27, grew up while I worked in the building, and I now get to watch her children via Facebook posts growing up in the movement as well. Frida serves on the board of the War Resisters League and helped found Witness Against Torture, a nonviolent direct action group focused on shutting down Guantanamo and ending torture. She long served as a researcher at the New American Foundation Arms and Security Initiative in New York City, writing and speaking on the topic of militarism. She writes the Little Insurrectionist blog for wagingnonviolence.org and is the author of It Runs in the Family, on being raised by radicals and growing into rebellious motherhood. Her parents, Philip Berrigan and Elizabeth McAllister, were a former priest and nun who became nationwide icons for their prophetic witness against war and nuclear weapons. So New Jersey Peace Action bestows upon Frida Berrigan the Hope Shapiro Bread and Roses Award for her lifelong activism striving for nuclear disarmament and the cause of peace and justice. Frida Berrigan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Greg. Good to see you again. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. And I'm really honored to accept this award. I love the concept of bread and roses, and I think it not only is it an acknowledgement of our humanity, right? The need for nourishment, but for our bodies, but also nourishment for our hearts and our souls, and the beauty of creation. But it also ties us back to the labor movement and reminds us how all of our struggles are connected, and how we're just one more plait in the web, or in the weft and wheel of it all. So I'm very honored and happy to be with all of you, and hope that we can have a good conversation as we move forward. I can only see like 6 or 8 boxes here, but I'm just trusting that all 40 of you can hear me okay and see me okay. One of these days, I'll get into the Zoom mindset and do things like PowerPoint presentations, but I'm just not quite there. And so you have to just see my face. I'll try and make lots of hand gestures as I move forward. So I have a little talk here, some notes to share with you. So I formally begin by saying thank you. It's an honor to share time with you, to celebrate, to connect, to learn, to draw new energy and new breath for the work ahead. It's incumbent on me to begin this time with you by acknowledging that I speak to you from New London, which is called Namiag, or fishing place, by the people who settled and cultivated, fished, and stewarded this land and its waters centuries before I came to New London. Those are the Mashantucket Pequots, the Eastern Pequots, the Mohegans, other indigenous nations who were rendered stateless on their own lands by white colonization and violence. They did not cede these lands. They are still here, and I work each day to earn their friendship, their recognition, and to offer reparations. A little on the work, some notes on keeping going beneath the cloud of nuclear peril, climate catastrophe, and mindless consumptive ennui that seems to characterize 2021. And there's this little, there's this little residue of something, perhaps you've heard of it, the global pandemic, still around, and still making it hard for us to connect and hard for us to be together. 2 baseline facts to keep in mind as we start. I think these are familiar to all friends in New Jersey Peace Action. We stand at 100 seconds to nuclear midnight, according to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. For 2021, the United States will spend about $1.7 trillion on the military. As Greg mentioned, he and I met at the Peace Pentagon in New York City, 339 Lafayette Street, now sadly like a high-end sneaker store. I take those figures from the War Resisters League's pie chart. They include the cost of veterans benefits and care, such as they are, and the cost of servicing war debt into the figures on war spending. With those additions, we essentially spend just under half of our discretionary spending is devoted to the military. Everywhere we look, this gross disparity is in stark, tragic, and enraging evidence. I see it on my own block every day. I live, as I said, in New London, Connecticut. And if your image of Connecticut is green lawns and boat shoes, think again. New London is a small urban community on the peninsula created by the confluence of the Thames River and the Long Island Sound. Our wealth 400 years ago was made on whale oil and the violence of the hunt. And now, instead of hunting whales, we build nuclear submarines. This town of New London and kind of our sister community on the other side of the Thames, Groton, Connecticut, are home to about 65,000 people, 3 colleges, the Coast Guard Academy, and 15 nuclear-powered nuclear armed submarines capable of extraordinary destruction. We're also home to General Dynamics' Electric Boat, a multi-billion-dollar private corporation that offers stock options to its shareholders, mega salaries to its top executives, as it pockets taxpayer dollars and manufactures yet more of these stealthy and potentially world-ending machines. General Dynamics is the 5th largest weapons manufacturer in the world, behind perhaps more familiar names like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon. Worldwide, they're known for their sales of the Abrams tank and munitions to the whole world, making billions in weapon sales. But here, they're championed in our community for creating us as the submarine capital of the world. A dubious honor, to be sure. Back in 2010, which seems like ancient history, the Pentagon put out a nuclear posture review. They put these out every 10 or 15 years, and it called for a recapitalization of the nation's sea-based deterrent, as though we hadn't already been spending billions of dollars on it every year. But to meet that goal, the Obama administration, the now gone Trump administration, and now the Biden administration all agreed, right? Despite all the differences between those three individuals and the way in which they charted a course for the American empire, they all agreed that we need more nuclear submarines. And the United States must begin construction of the new class of ballistic missile submarines that they're calling the Columbia. So the total price tag for this 12 ships will be a little bit more than $100 billion. But even that number doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near enough. They're already looking at cost overruns and are behind schedule. Of course, we hear a lot here in our local newspaper, which covers all of this in glaring, almost pornographic detail. We hear a lot about the strategy. We hear a lot about the capability. We hear a lot about the technology and how cutting edge it all is. But don't be fooled. These are world-killing machines. Each of the 12 new subs coming down the pike, each of them will be armed with 16 Trident D5 submarine launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, each of which have a range of 4,500 miles and can carry 14 thermonuclear warheads. Each one of those warheads, 14 on each missile, each one of those warheads is 6 times more powerful than the atomic bomb detonated over Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. So you do a little math, the kind my son likes to quiz my daughter with, and you multiply 12 times 16 times 14 times 6, right? And there's not enough world to destroy with math like that. Right, the Hiroshima bomb, now thought of as small, killed 140,000 people and turned a city to rubble and ash. The best way then to understand the Columbia class submarine is as a $100 billion plus initiative that aims to deliver 16,128 Hiroshimas. Set aside the strategy, set aside the capability, set aside the technology, and it boils down to that. Today, sorry, my cell phone is ringing. Today, the Naval Submarine base in New London stretches along the east side of the Thames River, right across the river from us in New London, and it straddles the communities of Groton and Ledyard. It occupies more than 680 acres and is home to 6,500 military personnel. Like any US military base anywhere on the globe, it's a world unto itself. There are restaurants and grocery stores. There's a liquor store where you can buy tax-free if you have the right kind of ID to get onto the base. There's a bowling alley where my daughter attended a classmate's birthday and had root beer for the first time. It was like 3 years ago, and she still talks about it because I mostly pretend that seltzer mixed with apple cider is soda. And that was the moment when she realized it had all been a lie. While she's been on the base for her birthday, we mostly stand outside, holding signs with our friend Cal Robertson, a Vietnam veteran whose life is committed to the abolition of war. He is such a ubiquitous and stalwart figure that when he was hit by a car a few years ago, the largest bouquet of flowers came from the folks who work at the subbase, which always just touches me deeply and reminds me, you know, again, of that bread and roses, that tension that we all hold, and what our work means to others is not something that we can often see. We shouldn't all have to get hit by a car to know what we mean to other people, but I think nothing has moved our friend Cal more than that bouquet of flowers. My mother, who's almost 82, who grew up in Orange and Montclair, New Jersey, and still has family in Montclair, at almost 82 and very forgetful with dementia, stands there too with us. And she waves at each car and keeps moving to stay warm, lamenting the many large engine trucks that roar by and delighting in the occasional toot of encouragement. This is what our resistance looks like these days. Intergenerational, small, humble, nonviolent. And it's built on 3 or 4 generations of homegrown resistance to submarines and to electric boat here in our community. And when we all gathered for January 21st, January 22nd, we had a history, we kind of had a history lesson in our community, a series of little lectures in different places from some of the folks who worked to found the Committee for Nonviolent Action in our community, and really called anti-nuclear people to New London and Groton for the summer of 1960 for what they called Polaris Action, which was the new nuclear submarine of the moment. Their literature is so beautiful, and it's steeped in the tradition of experimentation and connection. And they, in their call to action, said, Polaris Action may be thought of as a giant test tube in which are being tried out a great variety of novel peace education activities. And I'll just share their four goals, community for nonviolent action, because I don't know, they moved me deeply, and perhaps they'll move you too. So their 4 goals are the following. 1, penetrate public activity by starting conversations about the military-industrial complex, the mounting threat of nuclear holocaust, and the ethics of massive retaliation. 2, reach the public by highlighting a diverse range of daring yet humble human activities, from attempting to board submarines from small sailboats to maintaining a friendly and attractive outreach center in a largely hostile environment. Number 3, gain publicity and distribute literature by cultivating and maintaining good relationships with journalists and other media professionals, while also publishing reports and informational literature from CNVA itself. And 4, create a peace army and the moral equivalent of war by providing peaceful yet vigorous alternatives to military service. And in some ways, you know, like that sounds dated, and in some ways it still is a template to follow, pretty much like no matter what you're doing, right? Out of that work came countless creative actions, regular demonstrations and vigils, and the establishment of the Community for Nonviolent Action at what is now the Voluntown Peace Trust. We can even connect the strands of our current downtown with its robust arts community to the groundbreaking work of the anti-nuclear movement, which did establish a foothold along our main street at a time when that area had been turned over to the military for their entertainment. And where the only things downtown were tattoo parlors and adult bookstores and bars. And now there are music venues and art spaces and art galleries and organizations for young people and a whole kind of a whole different character down there. And still, you know, tattoo parlors and lots of bars. No adult bookstores. I think those are have been replaced by the internet, haven't they? This local homegrown work invited and supported outside activists who came for bigger demonstrations and mobilizations, and then stayed to plan plowshares actions in this community. And there have been 5 plowshares actions in the New London Groton community, each drawing inspiration and genesis from the first plowshares action on September 9th, 1980. And perhaps some of you are really familiar with this history, but I'll just reprise it briefly here, that on that date, 8 peacemakers entered the General Electric plant in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, where the nose cones for the Mark 12A nuclear warheads were manufactured. With hammers and blood, those 8 enacted the biblical prophecies from Isaiah and Micah to beat swords into plowshares, hammering on 2 of the nose cones and pouring blood on documents. Those 8 were subsequently arrested. They were tried by a jury and convicted and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 1.5 to 10 years. And then there were a series of appeals, and they were eventually resentenced to time served. My father, who was a member of that action, ended up serving about 3 years in prison for that. He was joined in that action by his brother, Daniel Berrigan, Dean Hammer, Molly Rush, John Schuchart, Elmer Moss, Carl Cabot, and Ann Montgomery. And it was Molly Rush's deep biblical insight to update and embody the prophet's call to transform implements of war into tools for agrarian work. And when I look back at the 5 plowshares actions that happened in our community, each of these actions by canoe, swimming, bluster, or artifice is an act of creative reimagining, of transformation, of possibility, a possibility born out of disarmament. My friend Claire Grady, who is a member of the most recent plowshares action, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a couple minutes, is gripped by Peter Schumann's term of possibilitarians. And Peter Schumann and his wife Elke, who recently passed away, of course, are the founders of Bread and Puppet, the arts and resistance community now based in Vermont. But this term of possibilitarians is one that I hope gains greater traction. And it seems to me that up against billions of dollars and the cold lethality of nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed submarines, these small bands of possibilitarians are beautiful and powerful. So on January 22nd, 2021, we weren't so small, right? There were 40 or 50 of us, more than we had anticipated, standing masked and shoulder to shoulder along the route driven by the white collar electric boat workers who work on our side of the river, the engineers. And we had signs celebrating each of the 51 countries at that time that had ratified the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And while some of us were a little surprised at how many turned out in the midst of the pandemic and in the cold on a random, what was it? It's like Wednesday or Thursday, maybe it was a Friday, to kind of deliver this message, I was, you know, encouraged to recall that we're not starting from scratch, and we never are. We're adding one more strand to the massive web of resistance that feeds our spirit, that prefigures the change we want to see, and invites others to join us. And bit by bit, all of that changes the world. On that first Plowshares Day, Molly Rush recalls, she hammered on the nose of the warhead and she put a hole in one and a dent in the other. And I thought, she said, I thought these things are as vulnerable as we are. And we can undo what has been done. And that, she said, was an amazing moment. What a thing to realize, right? Up against all the power and might of the United States as hegemon, right? We can undo what has been done. And it was that hope, sorry, I'm distracted by the chat. I can't really read it. So I hope that whatever questions are coming up will be part of the discussion afterwards. That hope that we can undo what has been done brought Steve Kelly, Claire Grady, Liz McAllister, my mother, Mark Koval, Patrick O'Neill, Carmen Trotta, and Martha Hennessy to the Kings Bay Naval Station on April 4th, 2018. The statement that they carried read in part, nuclear weapons eviscerate the rule of law, enforce white supremacy, perpetuate endless war and environmental destruction, and ensure impunity for all manner of crimes against humanity. Dr. King said, the ultimate logic of racism is genocide. We say the ultimate logic of Trident is omnicide. A just and peaceful world is possible when we join prayers with action, swords into plowshares. They were, so that action took place on, as I said, on April 4th, 2018. They were sentenced in October of 2019. And by that time, my mom had spent 17 months in pre-trial detention. And she was sentenced in June of 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, right at this dining room table where I now sit. And thankfully, from my perspective, she was sentenced to time served. And everyone is now out of jail, those 7. Most are still serving time under supervised probation, but my mom, as the oldest of the activists, was granted an early termination of supervised probation about a month or so ago. And as I said, she has dementia and no longer remembers the specifics of the action. But the heart of the matter is as indelible and powerful as the will to breathe. Swords into plowshares. How am I doing for time? I have a couple more minutes, right? Since their invention and their use in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, nuclear weapons have always served as the guarantor of US exceptionalism. We can, as a hegemon, do whatever we want because we have the biggest stick, right? But nuclear weapons do not protect us from tiny coronavirus germs. They actually make us sicker because the self-described greatest nation in the world has a tattered and scattered public health infrastructure and a population that can be easily manipulated and misled. Nuclear weapons don't protect us from white supremacy. In fact, the warheads are intrinsically linked to the notion of white superiority and that Black and brown lives can be exploded, tested on, lied to, displaced, mined beneath, and consigned to sacrifice zones. Resistance to nuclearism has always started in these communities because it was never abstract or academic for the peoples of the Southwest, the Marshall Islands, the steppes in Nigeria where uranium is mined. Nuclear weapons don't protect us from climate catastrophe. In fact, they exacerbate it. With the first nuclear weapons test in the New Mexico desert on July 16, 1945, the United States declared people and the environment expendable, grist for the mill of power, pawns in the great game. And then that logic extends to the game of climate chicken that we saw play out between the developed world and the developing world in Glasgow just this past week. But even in the face of all of this, the global community is disarming, right? With or without the largest nuclear power. The treaty declaring nuclear weapons illegal gains more strength and signatures all the time. And the power of people to come together, survive the pandemic, and that trial by fire, I think, also gave us a new understanding of how we can be organized, how we can be effective and committed to one another. I'm going to give a shout out to the state of New Jersey. I'm sure some people here had a role in this, but the Garden State, along with Oregon and California, have resolutions at the state level for the treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And that's another kind of tool in the toolbox for our organizing. As I'm winding down here, I have been rereading a book called 10 Commandments for the Long Haul that was written by my uncle Dan Berrigan a long time ago. And at the end, it's a very funny book, and anyway, it's lovely. And at the end, he included a list of 47 graffiti, he called them. And I'll share one in closing that tickles my funny bone and helps me to stay calm and focused and headed in the right direction. It's number 19. Number 19, start with the impossible. Proceed calmly toward the improbable. There are at least 5 fire exits. Isn't that great? I don't totally understand it, but I really, really like it. So swords into plowshares, bread and roses, start with the impossible and proceed to the improbable. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and look forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Frida, so much. We have 15 or so minutes for questions and answers, and we'll start with a question from a P-section member and Montclair Council member, Bob Russo. He says that what an inspiration you are, and he was a Rutgers student in the mid-late 60s, protesting the war, arrested in 1970 during the New York Teachers Union strike, been in jail, and still protesting today as he serves on a Montclair Town Council trying to move the money. His question is, how can I fight the January 6th crazy Trumpite callers who attack me each month at town council meetings for being too progressive?
Yeah, well, thank you for being out there, for the good work you're doing on behalf of the people of Montclair and more broadly and widely. And it's I wish I could see everybody's face. I don't know, other than carrying on, or I feel like some of these people are fueled by this kind of this almost demonic kind of energy and willful blinders on reality. And I wonder about the possibility of human to human connection, and stripping back all of the rhetoric and the kind of, what is it, testosterone and kind of hate speech, and kind of encountering people person to person. And I'm sure as you move through your working life in such a visible way, you're already doing a lot of that. But there is this kind of this displacement, I think, that can happen, or kind of multitasking that can happen when we're not sitting down face to face. Even, as I've been here with you, I've been called to attend to my cell phone. There's the chat going. There's even, though I'm looking at Lev, we can't really be eye to eye, right? And so I wonder about that kind of naked humanity eye to eye. And then kind of maybe another piece of it is, to be unabashedly progressive, and to fully embrace that, and to really kind of lead with that, and to kind of frame progressivism as true conservatism, right? In the sense of being conserving of natural resources, of fiscal resources, of human resources, attending to those resources, stewarding them, and kind of just kind of cutting out the polarity that we're so encouraged by mainstream media and kind of sound bites and this 24-hour news cycle. We're so encouraged to sort of essentialize and make everything so starkly and or, if it's this, it can't be this. If it's that, it can't be that. Anyway, I feel like I'm kind of stem winding a little bit, and I hope that there's something there to chew on. And if not, I'll just stop. Wait for another question.
All right, thank you. The next question we have is from John Glick. Could you speak about how do you see the relationship between nukes and the climate emergency?
Yeah, thank you for that. I talked a little bit about this in the talk, and I can kind of expand on it a little bit more, right? That I see it happening, kind of unfolding in three different ways. One, that nuclear weapons kind of prefigured global destruction in the sense that, by uncorking the nuclear genie and bringing that technology into the world, not making efforts to limit it and curb it and keep it in the scientific realm exclusively, we kind of ransomed off the notion of a perpetual future for the global community, right? That we cheapened creation, we cheapened the environment, we made it all expendable, right? And so in the testing of nuclear weapons, in the use of nuclear weapons, in the production and perfection of nuclear weapons technology, in our arms race with the Soviet Union, in our selling and exporting that technology to allies, to the point where we now have 9 nuclear powers. We said long before, we had a broad understanding as a nation, or as kind of individuals, a broad understanding of the threats posed by the warming climate. We kind of said, well, what is tomorrow, right? Is there a tomorrow? Because we can destroy the world, and we can do it with the push of a button, over over a power struggle with an enemy. So that's one way we can kind of understand that connection. And so everything we're talking about right now, with needing to slow the warming, with needing to roll back our reliance on fossil fuels, with trying to clean the environment, scrub it of our the disease of first worldism. All of that seems sort of partial and late, and like, how meaningful is it if there are 15,000 nuclear weapons that at any point could undo all of this work? So that's one piece. Second piece is, here we are in 2021, right? And we've known about the warming climate and the impact of industrialization on the environment that we live in, for what, a generation and a half, 2 generations, 3 generations now. Al Gore and some of the other, people who have been ringing these bells for years are now, elder statesmen in our world, and but the best minds in the United States are still working within the military-industrial complex, right? When we spend 48% of discretionary spending on the military, we kind of make everything else a hobby, right? So you want to figure out another way to power the American economy and keep the lights on. Well, you just you work in the margins with your cute little solar powers and your metal bottles and your electric cars. That's all happening sort of on the sidelines and in the margins, and with pennies compared to what is devoted to killing the planet. And so, you go through, and so many kids here in New London do, you go through school with an emphasis on the STEM, right, science and technology, and you're piped right into a white collar engineering job at Electric Boat. There's no kind of comparably large, well-established private sector entity that is offering sort of the green future. Young people have to work very, very hard to kind of divert from that well-worn path in order to use their skills and their talents, trying to solve the problems that face us, instead of, perpetuate nuclearism and perfect the coming apocalypse, right? And so that's another way that we can kind of see the link between nuclearism and the climate. So those are two thoughts I have, and I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. Next question comes from Judith Arnold, our president. So Adam, if you could switch to Judith, please.
Working on it. 1 second. There we go. Hey, Judith.
There. Okay. We have for quite a while noticed that it's very difficult to get young people involved in the peace effort. And it's not just New Jersey Peace Action going through this. And I hate to think of the fact that those of us who marched in the 60s and, and from there on, and who have carried this on, that when we're not able to do it any longer, that who's going to take over? How do we get young people involved? And as a mother of young people, I think you're the right person to talk about this.
Yes, thank you for that question, Judith. I have like a ton of thoughts going through my head. I'll try and be somewhat disciplined in my response. I think there's a couple different things that we can do, and one is to recognize sort of like where young people are at, and the burdens that many of them, and maybe I'll just speak for a community like New London, the burdens that many of them are under. And kind of, I don't know, go easy maybe on them, recognizing that many young people are going to school and having jobs and extraordinarily worried about debt and the prospect for the future. So that's kind of one thing. And then from that kind of understanding, perhaps that understanding suggests a different way of organizing that is that maybe expands the notion of what peacemaking looks like. Here in New London, young people will not really show up in big numbers to watch a important but ultimately depressing film, or vigil on the side of the road, or do kind of regular, like we hold Black Lives Matter banner at 5 o'clock every Friday in front of our All Souls Church, right? Like young people won't show up for that, but they will show up for potluck meals. They will show up for events that include games. They will show up for garden work and trash cleanups and sporting events and celebrations. And so if it's possible to shift the way we organize the work so that it's inclusive and includes a number of different paths of entry, and gives a piece of the work to each person. Let's all write these postcards at a fair instead of at a kind of church basement movie kind of event. Those are kind of just some ideas. Offering, and I don't know how Peace Action in New Jersey organizes, but sort of generally, I noticed that that the kind of peace events that I was forced to go to as a child didn't often have snacks or childcare, and so offering snacks and childcare at your events encourages people, kind of that middle generation of people with young children to come, and gives their children something to do so that they can fully participate. And that I found in kind of more local community organizing around gardens or housing, or even just getting people to show up for city council meetings about different things, offering food and childcare and translation into Spanish affords, offers a more opportunity for more people to come. And I guess the final thing I'll say is one thing I've learned from my parents, and is that that this piece of giving everybody a piece of the work is really important, and striking a balance so that there's a, what's the word, like a ladder of engagement, where if you have 10 minutes, you can do this. If you have an hour, you can do this. If you're by dint of privilege or constitution willing to get arrested, you can do this, but that it's different ways of engagement, not a hierarchy. So maybe a ladder was the wrong word to start with, not a hierarchy of what's the most impactful thing you can do, for one person to do. No, it's like, what can we all do together And then making sure that we're not setting up a competition, right? If everybody just did what I think they should do, right, then, you know, the worldwide revolution would have a chance. And again, you know, kind of recent history shows that each of us doing what we can do and what we can keep doing, and what we can do while we're also being kind and connected and responsible, is much more impactful than all of us kind of giving it too much and burning out. That might have been a little all over the place, but those are some thoughts. And the last thing I'll say is that I think that you know, younger people, older people have something to teach younger people. Obviously, lots to teach, but something important to teach about stepping out of technology and being face to face and being in a posture of connection and relationship and listening, and that invitation to step out from behind one's screen is a powerful one, and one that takes time. You know, like, so keep doing it. Keep inviting young people, particularly, to come, and then when they invite you to do something, you know, reciprocate, like really show up in the spaces of young people, because they really need us. They don't totally know it, but they really do need that intergenerational connection.
Thank you. Next question is from Anna Nelson, and I guess we'll cue her in person. Anna?
Yeah, Anna, you're allowed to speak, so if you just want to unmute, go ahead.
I didn't have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, you had your hand raised. My apologies.
Oh, sorry. If I did, I must have hit it by mistake. But
Okay, we'll move ahead.
sorry, I didn't have. I just was so engrossed listening. Sorry.
It's okay.
No problem. In that case, Nancy Tajani, our also longtime member. Nancy?
Actually, I tried to raise my hand to clap. I didn't realize I had to ask.
All right. No problem. No problem.
Frida, my husband and I spent time in Washington with you years ago protesting Guantanamo. It's good, great to hear you. Thank you.
Did be with you again, Nancy.
All right. Very good. So I guess the last question is from Charles Courtney. It's an interesting question. Is there a connection between your name and peace?
Oh, yes. So my name Frida, Frida, I'm named for my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, Frida Fromhart, who grew up in the Black Forest of Germany. But the word Fried, I think you would pronounce it, means peace in German. F-R-I-E-D-E. Fried means peace. So thanks for that question.
Thank you. Okay, promise the last one. So as it was mentioned before, you wrote a few books. Now, aside from a giant online store that we won't mention, where should people be buying your books?
Well, you can order the memoir on being what's it called? Oh, it has such a long name. Sorry. I'm being raised by radicals and growing into rebellious motherhood. You can buy it directly from Or Books. It runs in the family is its name, and it is. It was published in 2015, and it's sort of what I call a memoir, and a collection of essays that I wrote when my children were very, very small, reflecting on my upbringing and sort of thinking about how I was going to raise these extraordinary beings, and how motherhood was changing sort of the way I saw the world. So Or Books, ORBOOKS.org. org. And then the more recent book is called The Sandbox Rebellion, and it was published by my friends who do Geese magazine, which is kind of a Christian spirituality magazine, radical action magazine out of Detroit. And so that book you can order through any bookstore because it's in pretty wide distribution right now, and the publisher is working very hard. So your local bookstore could find it and have it to you in a couple days. I think you can order them directly from Geese too, Geez. I think it's geese.org, and they are selling them and other things on their website just in time for the upcoming holiday season. And I have an essay in that book on kind of establishing, kind of putting down roots in this community after most of the life feeling sort of unrooted in a particular place, like not from a place. So, yeah.
Very well. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much again. I think it was very fascinating and helpful. And everybody can again give a virtual round of applause to Frida for the wonderful talk. Virginia has a short announcement about the organizing meeting that will be right after what we're doing now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I couldn't quite coordinate with Adam, coordinate jumping on ahead of time. But we're going to just have a 15-minute quick mini organizing meeting right after this event. If anyone wants to join us, by the way, I'm one of the board members of NJPA. I'm going to post the link in the chat, and you can hear about some of the immediate needs of New Jersey Peace Action and some of the upcoming work that we're doing. Yeah, we'd love to have you there. We'll take your questions and discussion points, and just look for that in the chat. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Virginia. And now for the last part of our program, and that is the raffle. So Adam, if you could give me the screen share permissions with what looks like hail.
Oh no. Well, you should have a screen.
All right. Yay. Okay, I have that. All right. So this is our official New Jersey Peace Action annual fall gathering raffle. With the software for this developed by Yevgeny Pinsker, who happens to be my son. And all the tickets purchased for the raffle are entered into the system, and we will now proceed. So the prize number one is the Handmade Origami Peace Crane Wall Hanging by Victoria Pinsker. There are 1,000 small peace cranes that were handmade by her. And of course, we all know the legend about 1,000 peace cranes. So let's go ahead and find the winner for that. All right. So Francesca Kubian-Gadel, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, but so she's the winner of the Handmade Origami Peace Crane Wall Hanging. Next up is the $25 gift certificate for Donnelly Colt. And for those who don't know Donnelly Colt, it's a family-owned and operated business that has been designing and distributing union-made progressive materials promoting peace, social, and environmental justice since 1975. So there's $25 gift certificate. Let's go ahead and Sally Gellert is the winner of the gift certificate for Donnelly Colt. Number 3 is the $50 gift card for Barnes & Noble Bookstore, where I'm sure you can find Frida's books. So let's get that winner. Okay, Helga Moore is the winner of the gift card for Barnes & Noble. Next up, number 4 is a $50 gift certificate for Harry and David, who is a purveyor of baskets of goodies. So also very timely for the upcoming holidays. And look at that, Dawn. So this is kind of a goodbye present from us, I guess. You won the $50 gift certificate for Harry and David. And last but not least, the Galaxy Android 10-inch tablet by Samsung. And the winner of the tablet is Colin Minert. Again, sorry if I didn't pronounce the name correctly. Now, we are going to, our New Jersey Peace Action office will contact you in the next few days to arrange for either shipment or pickup of the prices that you won. So be on the lookout from us or communications from us. And on that note, thank you everybody. Thank you to Frida. Thanks to everyone who attended. This was another wonderful event, and hopefully we will see you earlier than the spring, but if not, then in the spring, of course, we'll have our annual dinner, and let's just hope that we will actually have a dinner in person this time. So again, thank you very much. Thanks, Frida, and goodbye.